ワールドシリーズ4ではいい戦いができるように頑張ります。
Para World Series 4 yo espero hacer el mejor resultado posible como el anterior World Series 3.
¡Vamos! ¡Vamos!
It's where about the instinct comes out and the reasoning goes away sometimes. The strategy, the thinkings, the rivals. It's just about you and your driving in the end.
And this is fantastically close. It's a run to the line.
I expect fireworks.
To try to get closer to the podium again, not just to get points, but to get a better feeling, so then I can get ready for the World Finals.
It's going to be very important, thinking towards the World Final as well.
We just have to give it all, so good luck.
Hello there and a very warm welcome to round 4 of the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. It's the last races before next month's World Finals, so strap yourself in for a bit of a roller coaster ride. In the Nations Cup, can Italy's Valerio Gallo continue his fantastic form, or will he be hunted down? Well, you don't have long to wait to find out. But first though, it's the Manufacturer Series, where it just gets tighter and tighter at the top. Team Mazda lead by a single point from Team Toyota, who've been joined by Team Peugeot after their second place in the last round. Along with Subaru, any one of the top 4 could lead the championship after today's race.
La experiencia en Nürburgring fue brutal porque era cada vuelta luchar por la primera posición y al final pues conseguí la victoria.
¡Vamos! ¡Vamos!
So Serrano's win, I think he drove great, he defended well during the whole race. So yeah, a lot of heavy drivers in the competition. This is really cool to see.
We go, it's Fraga versus Serrano. Another lap down the start-finish straight we go. It's Toyota on the inside, Serrano in the Porsche on the outside. Serrano knows that, goes for the defensive line once again, but the overspeed of the Dodge Viper.
I had a great experience racing against Araki and Serrano because we had some great battles, especially towards the end of the race.
El performance de Quinten fue brutal con el Peugeot porque no me esperaba que fuese tan bien en Nürburgring.
コースにうまく馴染むことができず、あまりいい結果が残せなかったと思っています。
My ultimate goal on the World Series 4 is to win the race. I mean, we will add some important points for the World Finals. It's part of the process and it's going to be very important, I think.
I want to win in World Series 4 because it's Peugeot's last race this year.
ワールドシリーズ4では激しい戦いになることが考えられます。
En la Copa de Fabricantes de la World Series 4 yo me siento muy motivado por mis compañeros de equipo de Porsche y espero no decepcionarlos.
Before I get Tom and Jimmy's take basically on the Manufacturer Series and what they think, let's take a quick look at that starting lineup. Tom, take us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. The usual suspects in there, aren't there? Igor Fraga for Toyota, Mazda with Kokubun, Peugeot with Yahal, etc., etc. We saw some big names up and down the order, springing a few surprises in last time, though, in World Series 3, didn't we? Let's start off with Jose Serrano, I think, first of all. Probably a good place to go, because, of course, he won it. That performance, especially in those last few laps where he soaked up that pressure, was just mesmerising.
I'll say that his performance wasn't so much of a surprise, though. He's been fast all season, as a lot of people have been, really, but that race was all about getting your elbows out. And he was basically racing like this the entire time.
Windows down, elbows out.
He just, right place, right time. And I think that and that confidence now, knowing that he can compete in that sort of close combat and come out on top is going to be really, really important for this next race.
And the consistency of it as well. That's the thing too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look on the other side of the coin, though, Mazda, Ryota Kokubun, how bad of a weekend can you have? I mean, he was just, it was proper hero to zero stuff, wasn't it?
Certified sad violin moment, that one.
It was.
Really...
I was playing it. I just couldn't hear it.
Is that what we could hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was just feedback. But yeah, I mean, bad race for Mazda in the Red Bull Ring, and of course, Nations as well. And we saw about confidence for Serrano, but as you said, on the other side of the coin, he's now going to go into this race maybe feeling a bit dejected, thinking, oh, maybe I've lost it a bit. But I know Ryota, he would have just gone away and just just basically tuned himself back up again. So I expect to see good things.
What about the wild card as well? Yuki Araki for Dodge. I mean, Dodge have been nowhere all year, and Yuki Araki just completely knocked it out the park last time, didn't he? Getting onto the podium for them.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here and say that whilst, you know, good performance from Dodge, it was just like straight lines, the last circuit.
All right, just undermine.
No, I mean, I'm sure it'll be fantastic here as well. Prove me wrong, that's what I say.
I suppose the difficulty is, of course, that though Dodge have built up this momentum, much like Peugeot, they're not going to be competing in the World Finals because, of course, they didn't qualify as part of the online series. So it's great for them to do this, but we're not going to see them, you know, fighting for the overall Manufacturer Series win, which is such a shame.
I wonder what you do now. Do you just sort of back out of it in that situation? Do you think, oh, it's not worth me getting involved, or do you just fight anyway? I don't know. If I was Yuki Araki, I'd just be giving everyone the same performance as I would before anyway.
And if I was a driver, I'd be looking next year, if I'm looking to make a change from a manufacturer, Dodge or Peugeot have shown that they've got the potential, haven't they?
This is true, this is true.
Off you go, Jules.
No, there's not enough time or training in the world before we start again to get that good. Certainly not as good as these guys are. Anyway, the time for talk is over. It's time for the racing to speak for itself. Let's check out the qualifying.
The Nürburgring Nordschleife is the host of the Manufacturers Series race for World Series 4 of the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. We're in Germany. It's a track I'm sure you'll be familiar with, just under 21 kilometres long and just under 150 corners for the drivers to contend with as well. You can see there Flugplatz there, as well as the Carousel and the Döttinger, the massive long straight, some really iconic parts of this circuit, and 300 metres of elevation for the drivers to contend with. It's going to be a very interesting challenge for them. So let's take a look at the race details then, shall we, going into this one. Group 4 cars for our drivers in the Manufacturers Series, racing hard tyres with 1 pit stop required during the race. Only 4 laps, and I say only because it's such a long lap here, it's going to take an absolute age for the drivers to get around. 4 times fuel consumption, 5 times tyre wear, and a standing start just to make it that bit more tricky as they have to get temperature into the tyres before the lights go green. Qualifying at the Nürburgring Nordschleife was always going to be an exciting affair for the drivers in the Manufacturer Series. It was Mario Stracca with the first lap time, but Jose Serrano with the early pace, the first driver under the 7-minute barrier. Here is Yuki Araki, though. He was just over 0.2 of a second clear of Serrano in that Dodge Viper in Group 4 trim, of course, finishing on the podium last time out in the Manufacturer Series, riding on the crest of a wave and setting provisional pole in the early stages of the session. Baptiste Beauvoir tried his hardest with the Mercedes SLS AMG machine, but sadly to no avail. Over the timeline he went, and it was only good enough for third quickest, just over 1.8 seconds adrift, which, to be fair, is not bad given it's a 7-minute lap time. Here is Takuma Miyazono, who was relatively close to the rest of the field, but the straight line speed of that Subaru WRX sadly hampering him, and he could only go third fastest, just under a second, I should say, away from the quickest time. It's Quinten Hall. He came over the line, 2.1 seconds adrift in the Peugeot RCZ, and that left Ryota Kokubun and Igor Fraga to do the business then. And Kokubun really pulled it out of the bag in the Mazda Atenza. Through into the final series of corners, he was just a whisker ahead of his fellow countryman Yuki Araki in the Dodge Viper. Over the line kept Kokubun, and it was going to be a provisional pole for the Japanese driver, but only for a brief second, because all eyes were on Igor Fraga behind the wheel of his Toyota 86 into the final corner, and he had really pulled it out of the bag. Through the timing line he went, and it was pole position for Igor Fraga and Toyota for round 4 of the Manufacturers Series in the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. And that is how the grid then sits. Just 4 drivers separated by under 0.6 of a second. The rest of the drivers, as you can see, quite a fair way away. Sadly, no Alonso Regalado, the Peruvian driver, will not be taking to the grid owing to internet connectivity issues back at his end. So 11 drivers will be on the grid ready to start round 4.
What a scorching lap by Team Toyota's Igor Fraga to snatch pole position for our Manufacturers Series race. And it was so exciting, in fact, that I think I'm going to meander over to the guys at the Holostrator and find out what nuggets of wisdom they have to offer us today. So, gentlemen, show us your nugs. That doesn't sound right.
We are the nugget depository over here. Lots of them over here.
I have no idea where you get your sayings from, to be honest with you. I mean, the Nordschleife doesn't really need an introduction. If you've watched anything to do with motor racing, you've played a video game that's got a car in it, it will have the Nordschleife
Nordschleife in some description. If you've watched any of his videos, you'll see an upside-down V10 shed bathtub thing.
It doesn't really matter. It's some sort of amalgam of something.
So you're probably the best person to talk us through it then on that basis, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, the Green Hell is one of my favourite circuits. And I think that, honestly, if you've not driven this circuit or seen a race of this circuit, you owe it to stay tuned and watch it, because it's one of a kind. It's just under 21 k's in length, which, for some sort of context, is about 4 or 5 times the size of a normal circuit. And to learn this thing is a challenge, first of all. To race it is a whole other thing.
And there's two kind of big points we want to look at over the course of the lap as well. I mean, we've got the carousel, which isn't an overtaking hotspot, but it's a really iconic part of the circuit. And then the Dosinger Höhe, that's where all the overtaking places are going to happen, right? Because it's just a big, long straight.
Well, the funny thing is you can actually lose a lot of time with the carousel because it's got this sort of banked pavement on the inside. You have to get the car in it because of the camber. And if you go a bit too fast into it, you sort of ramp out and hit the barrier on the outside. You lose a ton of time doing that. And then conversely, the Dosinger Höhe is just straight. Down, basically. But
Slipstream City.
Yeah, it is a good spot for overtaking, as you said, because you can just get into the draft of the guy behind and just follow him, and at the last moment, pop out. Thank you very much. Place for me.
Thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to the race, and just before it starts, a reminder that you can watch this show in any one of these languages. But however you choose to view, get yourself ready for another fierce battle in the Manufacturers Series. Enjoy.
Here we are then, lined up on the grid for a standing start for our drivers for the Manufacturer Series of World Series 4 of the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. A brilliant lap from Igor Fraga sees him lining up on pole position, a 6:57.859, but very close behind is Ryota Kokubun in the Mazda Atenza, just a tenth of a second away. Yuki Araki here pole position for such a long time in that session, which was bettered by the two drivers. At the end, he lines up third on the grid with Jose Serrano, the Spaniard, for company alongside him. Then it is Takuma Miyazono, last year's Manufacturer Series champion Subaru, a P5. They've got Baptiste Beauvoir for company, the Frenchman in the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. Quinten Yahal, who was so quick last time out, of course, in World Series 3, finishing on the podium, has got Sugimori for company alongside him in P8 on the grid. Ninth on the grid will be Mario Straka, the Slovakian in the Nissan GTR. Completing the top 10 is Adam Tapai, a difficult qualifying for him, 5.5 seconds adrift of the quickest time. Okamoto completes the 11 drivers lining up on the grid. Ready to go then here for round 4 of the Manufacturer Series for the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. Red lights about to come on then as we go racing at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. 5 lights on. Lights out and we go racing. Good start then from Fraga. Great start from Kokubun off the side of the front row as well. Down towards the first corner. Very short run into the left-hander. It's understandably Fraga that leads the way from Kokubun, from Araki, from Serrano. They're coming down the hill now, though. They're going to come through these very twisty bends. It's one at a time through this part of the lap. But as the circuit begins to open up a little bit and as they come onto the straight by the Flugplatz, then we could see the first overtaking opportunities taking place here. Here is Igor Fraga then as we ride on board with the pole sitter coming through these bends here, and then we're about to come on to that sort of rise up the hill, Jimmy, and this is where we could see the drivers beginning to make their moves.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about getting into momentum very early around here. You get into that rhythm as soon as you can. Otherwise, you end up finding yourself going wide and connecting with the barriers. As you can see, they're very, very close to the end of the circuit around here, so even small mistakes are punished quite significantly. So looking at Yuki Araki right now in the Dodge, they come over the Flugplatz, named as such because you used to catch air over there back in the day. Not so much anymore, but smoother as it is now. And now we get the first big drafting zone down towards down the hill now on board Takuma Miyazono, getting up to about the top speed of these cars, 250 k's to 60 k's in the slipstream, and now into this left-hander, very tricky through here, a bit blind on the way in, off the throttle and then back on again, and then brake heavily as we then go back downhill again.
And Jose Serrano, they're looking pretty close onto the back of Yuki Araki. One wonders whether he is going to be able to find his way past before too long. The thing is, this is really a circuit that opens and flows and ebbs and flows is what I'm trying to say there. And there are parts where you can overtake and parts where it's very much single file, like coming through here. You don't really want to be going 2 by 2 through there. Jose Serrano knows that. He knows, of course, that this is going to be a very long race for the drivers, and it's important to, I guess, not do anything too rash on these opening few laps, just to make sure that you don't compromise your race early stages.
Yeah, as I said before, it's super easy to make a mistake around here because you don't really have a lot of curb either side of the circuit. Of course, to get round the fastest way possible, you've got to use all the track. So if you find yourself maybe here, for example, this double right-hander, it's so easy just to put a wheel on the grass on turn-in and then spin out into the wall and exit there. So while it might look like they're being quite calm and collected right now, I can guarantee you that they're all pushing as hard as they can. But as you say around here, Tom, overtaking is actually fairly difficult. So it's just about putting yourself in a position to pounce when the opportunity actually arises.
Well, the Nürburgring, of course, is when we first had the World Tour for the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships back in 2018. Seems like a lifetime ago that now, doesn't it? We had some brilliant racing then. Let's hope we get treated to the same now for round 4 of the World Series. Riding on board here we are then with Yuki Araki, and it's great to see Dodge fighting up the sharp end, of course, finishing on the podium last time out in the Manufacturer Series and World Series 3. And they've really just seemed to come on song for whatever reason. Yuki Araki and that Dodge, whether they've adjusted the balance of performance or something, I'm not sure, but they've just been able to beat at the sharp end, which is not what we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, I've not seen much of the other drivers out of Dodge. It's just been sort of Yuki flying the flag, so to speak, at the moment. But he's been doing a hell of a good job of it, as you said. Again, in a podium position at the moment. Here's someone who last time out we sort of wondered maybe if he'd come off the ball a little bit. Ryota Kokubun in the Mazda right now, although putting those fears to rest for us anyway. Currently in P2, chasing down Igor Fraga, or trying to anyway. Now this section here is a very long uphill section. This is where engine power really comes into its own. You've got a car with a lot of power underneath, you're going to have a lot of a better time up here than those who do not. So again, the Viper looking fairly strong, and Ryota, they're using the draft of Igor Fraga to just gaining a couple of attempts there. So I mean, if you're the leader up there, you automatically lose about half a second if you have someone in your tow. It's a bit frustrating when you're trying to build the gap, but it happens. Here's Miyazono on board now for the fast left-hander here called the Bravery corner. By the guys who drive this place in real life, and nearly off into the grass. They just about managed to collect it on the other side of the road now as we come up to the carousel for the first time.
Yeah, really nicely there from Takuma Miyazono to just keep that on the straight and narrow. The thing is, he's sat behind Jose Serrano. We know he needs to do that because that Subaru WRX is not quick in a straight line there. Yuki Araki getting right up the top of that banking, and I wonder whether that's just going to compromise his drive a little bit coming out of that corner then. Look at how close Miyazono is on the exit of the corner though. That Subaru WRX, no problems at all with the traction behind the wheel of that machine, right up on the back of Jose Serrano. Lots of momentum, lots of speed, no room to be able to use it though for him at the moment as they come over the brow of the hill. So as the drivers are coming in towards this sort of latter part of the lap, getting ready for the Dottinger Hill, which is, I guess, where we're going to see the main overtaking opportunity on this lap. What do you think is going to be going through their mind at this early stages?
Oh, best part of the lap, this, first of all, Tom. It's the this last section. It's super technical, lots of camber changes as well. And really, the driver makes a difference here. And as we say that, we watch Miyazono just get it wrong. So easy to do that. Just over the crest, the car got sideways away from him. Luckily, actually seemed to collect it fairly quickly. Didn't lose too much time. So if you're going to have an incident round here, that's probably the best you could have come out of it. So I think maybe what needs to be in the driver's mind is where they are right now, not thinking ahead too much, because this section is so challenging that when you do sort of drop the ball, you see what happens there. You end up in the barrier.
Yeah, we've seen Miyazono just being a little bit scrappy over the course of this lap, and it was always going to come back to bite him at some point. Sadly, it bit him right at the end of that lap, but as you say, good damage limitation to not be suffering too much then. Going over through the left, then the right-hander, then over the left again as they come down the hill. This is just such a brilliant part of that, kind of a roller coaster section, if you will, for these drivers. On board here with Jose Serrano as he looks to try and find his way through on Yuki Araki. And I dare say the top two of Igor Fraga, Ryota Kokubun, they're kind of running in their own races at the moment, 1.3 seconds ahead of this squabble for third position. Into the left-hander we go. Just a couple more corners left before we go on towards that Dottinger Hill, and let's see how this is going to play out through the second carousel there. A little bit wide for Yuki Araki on the corner exit on the left-hand side of the circuit, just past the barriers is where we had our party for the World Tour back in 2019. We had a fantastic view of the circuit for the Nürburgring 24 hours which seems like another lifetime ago, really. Onto the Dottingham Hill we go then for the first time. Let's see the legs for Jose Serrano behind the wheel of that Porsche, and let's see whether Yuki Araki is going to be able to keep the Cayman at bay, because of course he's going to have a bit of a slipstream in front of him as well. Now here's a replay as we run on board with Quinten Hall. I wonder what had happened to him, as he has just lost a bit of time to the driver in front, and that is what happened. Bit wide onto the grass, bit of understeer through there into the barrier, and 3 positions lost as a result of it, right to the back of the field.
Yeah, that was meant to be miss hit miss, not miss Quinten Hall there, but easy to do, and I think he got a little bit greedy in trying to save that. I think he could have come away without actually spinning the car there, but I think he tried to keep as much speed as possible, and that's what actually caused him to spin there. But to be honest, when you're in that situation, you do try and recover as quick as possible. So interestingly, Serrano not able to actually overtake Yuki Araki on the straight there. I think maybe just that Cayman not quite the same straight line speed as the Dodge in front.
I wonder whether he's going to be saving a bit of fuel though, because fuel is going to be a consideration. It's 4 laps here. Drivers need about 33 litres, we reckon, to be able to complete this race. So I wonder whether he was just lifting and coasting, trying to save fuel, because if he's right behind Yuki Araki right at the end of this race and they come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, that could be the difference between leapfrogging him in the pit lane and not doing that.
Yeah, certainly a possibility. Maybe just playing the long game. Only 4 laps here, of course, so say only 4 laps, it's 4 laps of a 7-minute lap, so it's still a fairly sizable race this, but if you can save fuel and if you do need to come in and replenish that at some point, then it is going to definitely go in your favour. We're still on board now for Serrano, we're now with Ryota Kokubun as he tries to lower the gap to Igor Fraga, although saying that, Fraga's actually putting bit by bit, putting more and more on the Mazda driver in front. Of course, Team Toyota with Igor Fraga, they've been a pretty successful pairing, I'd say, the manufacturer and the Brazilian driver, but round here at the moment, it's definitely all to play for. 1.6 seconds isn't actually that far when you think about it. It only takes one little mistake, and we've seen a few of those already from established drivers to know that it takes just that to bring the gap back down again.
But only 1 podium in 4 World Series events for Toyota this year. It was a win, admittedly, in the World Series showdown, but other than that, they've not been on the top 3 throughout the entire part of this year. So this could be a great chance for Igor Fraga to try and build some of the momentum that they seem to have lost over the course of 2021, and hopefully give them that forward push, so to speak, going in towards the World Finals later on this year. Let's see whether he is going to be able to do that. Here is Ryota Kokubun, looking pretty relaxed as it stands. We've got quite a close-up view of him there, but not much emotion on his face, and he's dropped back a little bit from Igor Fraga over the course of this lap, and I wonder whether he's just beginning to fall into the clutches here of Yuki Araki and Jose Serrano. The gap was over a second on the last lap. It's now come down to 0.8 of a second, so he's going to be within slipstreaming range coming on towards that long straight.
I think Serrano right now, this second, third, fourth squad boy is probably the fastest of the 3 of them. Whether he can do much is another story, and you know, we talk about differences between cars and straight line speed differences and stuff like that, but to be honest, the differences aren't actually that massive. It's just in the context of the race itself. If you're racing someone and they're 3 miles an hour quicker than you up a straight, you think that's a massive amount when you're chasing them. But in this sort of race, it isn't actually too hard to overcome. I'm just looking back there to Kimi Miyazono, who's really dropped off. I know he had a bit of an issue end of last lap, but he's really fallen off now. 1.3 seconds behind Serrano and this sort of bunch of cars here. So I think maybe his challenge has faltered for now, but maybe we'll see him come back now he's got a bit of clean air, who knows.
Yeah, just looking at his sector times, there doesn't look like he's had too many incidents over the course of this lap relative to those in front of him. So I wonder whether it's just a knock-on effect, as you said, of that incident on the last lap there, Jimmy. So here we are then looking at Baptiste Beauvoir and Shohei Sugimori. Now that Honda NSX we know can be quick, but it hasn't been quick so much recently. You can see there 8th in round 3 is where Sugimori finished behind the wheel of that Honda last time out. Baptiste Beauvoir behind the wheel of the Mercedes-Benz. Again, 5th place for them is not where they'll have wanted to be, given that they've been fighting for titles for the last couple of years in the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. But Beauvoir, we know he's a quick driver. Just, it's difficult when you've not got the car underneath you to be able to put those performances in.
No, I think that's the first time, sorry, to completely change the subject, that I've seen Sugimori on camera. I think he's finally got his Sony camera out there, which is nice to see. Oh, here we go. So here's now finally a lunge from Araki. This is always a scary place to try and make the move up here, because it is very much side by side. Kokubun, though, lets him have it. A little bit of a wave there from Araki on the picture-in-picture to say thank you, mate, for not fighting there, because the last thing you want to do there is have contact, because that wall is very close and you're going very fast.
Stuck the hazards on there just to say thank you as well, did Yuki Araki. Coming in towards the carousel section then, so it's now the Dodge into second position ahead of Kokubun then. So let's see what the gap does in front of him between Igor Fraga and Yuki Araki. 2 seconds it sits now at the halfway stage of this race. We're at the halfway point in this lap now, and we're now at the halfway stage because, of course, there's 2 laps remaining here at the Nordschleife. So on board here we ride with Ryota Kokubun then. Now, if you're Jose Serrano, you're 0.8 of a second drift, surely you're going to be wanting to find your way past Kokubun before too long. But, of course, opportunities far and few in between around this circuit. And just looking at the difference in driving styles there, I can see with the picture-in-picture on the left-hand side that Kokubun seems to just be using a little bit more steering lock than Araki in front of him. So that instigates to me that he's got a bit more understeer in that car, and that could be wearing out his front tyres. Back to that in a moment. Here's the predicted points if the race finished as it was. You can see Toyota would finish on 13 points, Mazda on 12 points, Peugeot on 10, Subaru on 9, and Volkswagen on 7. Subaru and Volkswagen there not changing in the point standings as it would sit there so far. Likewise Peugeot as well, but it would be gains for Toyota and Mazda in the standings.
So yeah, looking good for Toyota and Mazda at the moment, and Yuki Araki doing his best to take as many points away as possible from the top teams as it is. Jose Serrano now, I think he's seen that it is possible to get by Kokubun, so now he's trying to line up his own shot through, although through this last sector here, and this sector is all about handling of the car. I think especially the Dodge is struggling a little bit compared to the Mazda behind it. That Mazda seems a lot more hooked up through this section here, just able to carry a bit more speed through some of these faster corners. Here's now from the roof cam of Jose Serrano, a great view of the 2 cars battling in front. You can see just how important it is to get a good line through here. So easy to just take the wrong line, end up in the grass, and given that it's mostly blind through that section too, you're sort of just nailing the throttle and hoping you've got the car in the right place in the circuit. Otherwise, you end up meeting our good friend Mr. Barry R. He's a shy guy, Mr. Barry. I'm going to be
good friend of yours, though, isn't he?
He's a very good friend of mine. He's a very good friend of mine.
Drivers will be coming into the pit lane then, presumably at the end of this lap. They've got to make a mandatory pit stop on the hard tyres. You can see Igor Fraga then right on the ragged edge of adhesion as he just flicks it over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Onto the Dottinger Hill we go, but this is where we're going to be expecting drivers to come into the pit lane, change over from the hard tyres onto another set of hard tyres and put some crucial fuel in their car as well. Now, we're on board here with Jose Serrano, sat in the slipstream of Kokubun, who in turn is slat in the slipstream of Yuki Araki then. Now, Serrano not able to get ahead of Kokubun as it stands there, not lifting off the throttle there as we can see on board with him either, so he's just not got the straight line speed behind the wheel of that Porsche Cayman by the looks of things to mount a challenge. Of course, with Kokubun having that slipstream in front, it does mean that the difference in the straight line speed between the two is a bit more minimal than it would be otherwise. You can see him closing up though onto the back of them as they go in towards the final sector of the lap, and presumably into the pit lane then at the end of this one. And depending on who's used as much fuel as they have, this could be very important. Igor Fraga, the race leader, continues on, whilst Kokubun and Araki come into the pit lane, as Serrano also carries on normally as well.
So that is interesting. So maybe looking to have a little bit of a less of a, I don't know, I say less of a fuel stop, it's going to be more fuel really, or more of a splash to the end. But the more important thing is it's going to be on a more warm set of tyres on this lap. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the term undercut by now. So these lads, whilst having a little bit of fuel put into the car, will also have a fresher set of tyres, and they should be able to lap a little bit quicker than Eagle this time around. So when it comes to Eagle pitting, there's a good chance he'll get jumped by these guys who are pitting now. But we know Eagle has got a 4-second lead right now. We're pushing like crazy to try and keep it, so keep an eye on him.
Beauvoir coming out in traffic there. He was sitting inside the top 5, coming into that pit lane there and coming out of it in traffic as well, in 10th position behind Okamoto and Sugimori. Not welcome at all there for him as we ride on board here with Okamoto, who's got Sugimori really close behind there. As we know, it's very much one at a time through here, threading the eye of a needle through, but Sugimori certainly looking the quicker of the two drivers. The rear-wheel drive mid-engined NSX battling with the front-wheel drive front-engined Volkswagen Scirocco. Very different machines, and of course very different to handle there as well. And Okamoto struggled in qualifying. It certainly looks like he's beginning to struggle here under race conditions as well. Look at him closing up on the back in Sugimori then. Okamoto looks on the inside there over the Flugplatz into the right-hander. Doesn't make a move, stick through there, but you would imagine it's only going to be a matter of time before the Japanese driver mounts a challenge on his compatriot, and indeed he does so then, pulls alongside him on the outside as they come through the left-hander. Beauvoir tries to join the party here as well, so Sugimori gets ahead of Okamoto. 2 positions lost in the space of 2 corners then for Okamoto, here comes Beauvoir onto the back of Sugimori. Is he going to send it down the inside? Sugimori knows that, holds the line, holds firm for now, and Beauvoir thinks better of making a challenge on the NSX driver for P8.
Yeah, interestingly, Okamoto just sort of gave that up, didn't he? He was like, oh, actually, I don't want to be involved in this. The fight's not over, but I will very quickly mention that during the pit stops, Ryota Kokubun actually managed to jump Yuki Araki, so the work that Yuki did to get by Ryota Kokubun in the Mazda there, completely undone just like that. It shows how important that a quick pit stop can be. So that suggests to me less fuel in the Dodge. But now there was Yuki there, bit of a gap now to Ryota Kokubun. So that must have been a really short stop actually.
Yeah, I was looking at the fuel usage from the drivers actually coming into that pit lane, and Yuki Araki had about a late 30s in the litres of fuel left, whereas Kokubun had 42 litres left of fuel. So it's only 4 or 5 litres, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, old school V10 versus a modern inline 4. I think that's pretty much what that is there.
Yeah, absolutely. On board here then with Igor Fraga. It's nice to see Igor fighting at the sharp end of the grid, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest, personally, he's had a difficult time as of late. Of course, lost his drive at the end of 2019 in the FIA Formula 3 Championship, and of course hasn't really been racing in the real world, so to speak, for a long time. But now he's fighting at the sharp end in the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships again. I imagine that'll just be doing him wonders. He loves this game, he loves playing it. We love seeing him because he's just such a great example of what you can do with something like this.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, as you say, a bit of a tough period for Igor, but you never really see that when he's driving. He always looks so calm and collected and focused. He always looks a little bit depressed when he drives, bless him. But I think he's that just honed into what he's doing. That there's no other outside influence. It's just I'm here, I'm driving, and this is what I'm focused on right now. So we're just looking back down the field. Here's Ryota Kokubun, and as you see there, finished 12th last round, 12th and last for Mazda. So it was a really horrible just a weekend, I think, for Ryota last time. Just didn't seem to be the driver that we know he is. He's a very fast and very accomplished driver. And we now start seeing, we're seeing that come back now, which is always nice to see the resurgence there. He's currently in 6th place. He is the leader, I think, of people who have pitted, and on the immediate sort of new hard tyres now. So he'll be one of the quickest guys on track on this lap. What will be interesting to see is when Fraga and Serrano come in at the end of this lap, it must be surely, where they're going to be compared to Ryota Kokubun.
And let's bear in mind, of course, he can afford to push that bit harder, put the engine up into a rich rev mode, and just use a bit more fuel, because he's just got that little bit in reserve, so to speak, for him there. And like you said, last time out he had a complete dog's day of it. It was that snowball effect, wasn't it? The Manufacturer Series qualifying didn't go so well, the race went even worse, and then that happened again in the Nations Cup later on. So here we are then with Jose Serrano. Now, he didn't pit, of course, likewise with Igor Fraga. Looking at the times in the sectors, they're still setting pretty quick times. Igor Fraga was the fastest man last time around, but of course those hard tyres are going to be coming towards the end of their shelf life by the end of this lap here.
I know we maybe don't say it's enough, but take these drivers out of the context of the series they're in right now, and look how amazing it is to see these guys wring the necks of these cars through, in my opinion, one of the best circuits in the world. And as I say that, as I sit back to take a moment to appreciate what's going on, Jose Serrano actually picks up a penalty there. 0.5 seconds of track limit, so it's gone a bit wide somewhere. So heard me, I think, praising his driving, and then thought, actually, no, I'm going to go wide here somewhere. But even so, watching these guys go around and having the cars on the limit there, really pushing those Michelin tyres as far as they'll go, it's just amazing to see the ability here. And I think it's just sometimes lost in the context of the competition, so I think it's good to just point it out every now and then.
Absolutely. It looks like they're on a qualifying lap every single lap here at the Nordschleife, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've done too many laps around here, and I watch these guys go around and think, well, I think I've been wasting my time. These guys are far better than me. But,
I mean, in fairness, your laps are normally in sheds or bathtubs or big diggers or something.
Yeah, well, wherever I can find. Wherever I go around,
a V10 wheelbarrow or something.
So, yeah, I was going to say that I think here's the penalty. So, easy place to do it there. The corner opens up in such a way that the car pushes out to the outside there, and he just couldn't quite keep it tight enough. Now, that 0.5 second penalty will really hurt him down there, because if you set the penalty quite early, then you have to just carry that penalty all the way down this massive straight, so he served it now. And just watch that time to Miyazono, it's still coming down, so it goes from being a 0.5 second penalty to being probably about a second and a bit by the time it's all been done and served.
Yeah, not ideal at all there for them. Good to see Miyazono fighting at the sharp end of the grid. Of course, he hasn't made a pit stop, whereas everybody from 6th down to 11th has made their pit stop. We're coming on towards the final lap now then here, so this is where the top 5 are going to be coming into the pit lane at the end of this one. Look at Kokubun then, now on the back of Quinten Hall. Let's see whether he's going to be able to find his way past. Likewise as well, we could see there that Baptiste Beauvoir was right on the back of Yuki Iraki. Here is Kokubun then going side by side with Quinten Hall and getting himself ahead. Fraga comes into the pit lane with 6 litres of fuel left, so he's going to be making a bit more time, losing a bit more time, I should say, to Jose Serrano, who's got 13 litres of fuel left. Miyazono only 2 litres of fuel left, so this could be really interesting once these pit stops have played out, because the driver's now coming in towards the final series of corners, and Fraga, it's going to feel like an eternity for him in the pit lane at the moment here, as he puts another set of, more fuel on board, doesn't change the tyres, stays on the hard tyres, comes out of the pit lane there, ahead, crucially, of Ryota Kokubun. But what is the gap going to be between the two? It was a couple of seconds before the pit stop. It's actually managed to just increase ever so slightly, but Jose Serrano just ahead there of Kokubun as well, who's been pushing like a madman on that outlap.
So he did manage to jump Kokubun there, which is a good strategy there from Serrano. I was sort of a bit worried for Eagle there because of the amount of fuel you mentioned, but I knew that wouldn't quite be enough to get by Serrano, but I thought the Kokubun would have been closer than this. I think maybe just didn't quite get the lap he wanted there, and it's always hard to gauge. It's such a long lap around here, we only get to see little snippets of it when we're watching, of course, from our broadcast booth here, but I think maybe just didn't quite have the outlap he needed there.
Yeah, just looking at the lap time from Fraga, he was a second or so faster before the pit stop, so yeah, that just goes to show, doesn't it, really, that was the difference between him being on the back of him and not really.
Now I've watched, so Igor streams at home on his own personal YouTube channel, and I've watched him drive around here, and he always starts from the back just to basically see how he can do, and 9 times out of 10 he'll win the thing from the back here. So you're seeing that skill in action. Meanwhile, Yuki Iraki, oh wow, okay, why didn't he go for it there? I would have went for a big smile at Miyazono's face there, thinking, oh, thank you for not just absolutely sending me off into the undergrowth there. But the overspeed of the Dodge versus the WRX in front there, it almost seems unfair in a straight line, but we know that on the other half of the circuit, that WRX in front is a lot quicker. Going to go side by side now, coming down to the Vauxhall. No, he's, I think a little bit better of that, which is good. Now we go up the hill and then just really fast. Watch out for that curb on the left-hand side there. And great to see this guy scrapping, but that Dodge just seems like it smells blood in the water, doesn't it?
Well, it needs to as well, because let's be honest, Yuki Iraki's lost time, he's lost ground, he's lost out to Takuma Miyazono in those pit stops, now down in P5, and that's not where he was before the pit stops played out here. He was on for a net podium finish, and just hasn't worked out at all then for him, because of course that heavy fuel drinking has just dropped him behind Miyazono's Subaru, and as such that's the difference between him battling for the podium and now battling for 4th position then in this race.
Yeah, all cars have their strengths and weaknesses, and when you try and take an old school V10 racing against a guy in a modern inline 4 engine, you're probably going to have a little bit of more fuel used, we'll say that much. But on board now with Kokubun through the miss complex. We have Jose Serrano in front, and then in front of us a bit further is Igor and Fraga, just out of reach though, just out of reach of these guys.
So we've got somebody watching this for the first time and they're looking at the Nordschleife and thinking, what on earth is this circuit all about, and how on earth do you remember all the corners and string a lap together? You've done a million laps here, how do you do that?
It's a big head, isn't it? Yeah, it's right there. You break it down into sections, really. I mean, I think the worst thing you can do is try and get in the car for the first time and do a lap, because you won't make it round in one piece, because there are so many blind corners around here, lots of crests that will catch you out. So it's about taking your time, I think, if you're learning the circuit. And GT Sport actually has an awesome training tool for that. Oh, Igor! Oh, I mean, you see that little cheeky smile there of, oh, yep, got away with that one.
That would have made his bum go like a rabbit's nose.
Yeah, I was going to say that I've done that many times as well, as we talk about learning the Nordschleife, but yeah, blimey hell, that was a close one. But I'll get back to that in a second, because we're seeing now Red Kokubun getting the draft from Jose Serrano up the hill here. And here's Yuki Iraki finally, I think, just going, right, okay, V10 motor, through I go. up the hill, and not much, unfortunately, Mizuno could do there to defend for Team Subaru.
Look in the background there as well, pretty close between Beauvoir and Sugimori as well. Beauvoir now getting ahead in that Mercedes-Benz, up into P6 ahead of the Honda, so that's a good position change there. Here is Kokubun still on the back of Jose Serrano, I should say, rather. We can look at the two drivers on the left-hand side of your screen. Contrasting fortunes for them last time out in World Series 3. A win for Serrano in the Porsche, 12th and last on the road for Kokubun then. Now they're fighting for the podium positions into the carousel. It's going to be one at a time through here. You can't go 2 by 2 into that corner, not unless you fancy a taste of the metal on the outside of the circuit. But Kokubun here, he's going to have to be thinking about where he's going to pounce, and we know the straight line speed of that Mazda is good. We know that the Porsche can be quick, but it's more agile in the corners, not necessarily a straight line rocket.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Kokubun, just wait. You just wait to the straight, and you have to keep within touching distance, of course, through this last sector, but I've seen these guys go down the straight. That Porsche seems to be pretty sluggish, actually, down the straight compared to this Mazda, so it'll just be a matter of time. And it sounds like, to reduce it to that sounds boring, of course, but then again, you then watch this on board. Now, Jose Serrano knows this. He knows he's got to build a gap, and look at him push through this middle sector. It's already opened up a couple of car lengths through here, and that's a massive ask to do. Now, he's got to be very careful coming into this right hands down the bottom here. This is where he picked up the penalty a couple of laps ago. So watch out for that curb on the right. Wide again there, but not quite wide enough to get the penalty, and I'm not sure it's going to be enough, Tom, at this point.
No, I'm not sure either. Let's see what's going to happen then here with Kokubun. Serrano with the traction of that mid-engined Porsche Cayman just seems to have the legs on him through this section of the lap, but Kokubun there beginning to start fighting back. Let's see whether he can use the straight line speed of that Mazda Atenza Group 4 machine. You can see that Igor Fraga is still up the road, still 3.3 seconds ahead of these dueling drivers at the moment. He's got a nice comfortable cushion as they come on towards that Dottinger. And here then is Kokubun then. Let's see what he's going to be able to do through the right-hander, into the left, just threading the eye of a needle through here then, but Kokubun really seems to be getting his act together in this final part.
Yeah, at this point, I think that Ryota, he knows what he needs to do, just putting that pressure on Serrano, just making sure he doesn't get too comfortable out there in the Porsche. Now, I'll be interested to see what Jose does here. Is it just to push as hard as you can and try and build the gap, or do you even back up into a bit into Kokubun here and make him so he has to? There you go. So Kokubun's making the choice for him now. He's just getting off the front wheel a little bit so he can get a longer toe, a better slipstream, and make sure he can really get by at the end of the straight here. So Jose Serrano, I think maybe I'm free, and this is where we're going to see the Mazda just hone into the back of the Porsche Cayman in front.
Let's see what happens then, coming down the Dottinger for the final time here for World Series 4 in the FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. Kokubun with the straight line speed, with the slipstream then of Jose Serrano. Can he take second place away from the Porsche driver going towards the left-hand side of the circuit as they come side by side down the Dottinger then? And Kokubun takes that second place away from Serrano. Serrano immediately back into the slipstream then to try and retaliate on the Mazda driver. Can he do anything before the end of the lap though? He's really going to have to send it if he's going to try and make a move. He's really close on the brakes as they come through into the final series of corners. Here though is Igor Fraga, pole position, fastest lap, and the win in World Series 4 in the Manufacturers Series. Yes. Relief for Igor Fraga as he wins here at the Nordschleife. Yes. Kokubun does hold on for second place ahead of Jose Serrano by a tenth of a second. Yuki Araki finishing P4. Miyazono comes along over the line in P5 ahead of Sugimori and Beauvoir. But what a race then from Igor Fraga on top here at the Nordschleife. A perfect performance from the Brazilian driver. Final results then from World Series 4 in the Manufacturers Series here then. Igor Fraga takes the spoils and 3 points ahead of Ryota Kokubun by just under 4.5 seconds. Serrano just missing out on that second place finish at the end of that one. That could be very important for the point standings, which we'll look at in a few moments' time. Araki sadly missing out on the podium finish at the end of that race, of course, owing to the pit stops really. It really did seem to compromise him there as you look at the rest of the drivers down the order. What does it mean though for the overall point standings in the World Series? Well, it's this. Toyota and Mazda are tied on points, 13 apiece coming into the World Finals later on this year. Peugeot sitting there in third position. The only team, of course, not to score points so far in 2021 is Team Nissan, down in 12th.
What a dominant win there by Team Toyota's Igor Fraga, and he's with me now. So, Igor, you're back, baby. This is great news. How do you feel?
I feel great, especially like the last race. It was Not so good in terms of tire wear, and this time, the combination of the track suited better, I think, Toyota. So yeah, happy to make most of it.
Did you feel in a good zone, like a good headspace for the race?
Actually, at the beginning, I was worried a lot with the fuel, because Toyota is it tends to wear more the fuel, use more the fuel, and the other car was on the draft, and on the middle of the track, I was almost opening a gap so the others wouldn't have my draft anymore. So I tried to push a little bit, but then I used a little bit more fuel, so I was kind of a little bit worried about.
So, I mean, you've been qualifying really high, but kind of not always coming through in the races quite as well. So what have you been doing differently? Why have you won this race?
Yeah, I've been practicing just like for the others event. But compared to last year, for example, that I didn't do so well in the nations, I couldn't go to I went to the semi-final, but not to the final, because there was a lot of racing schedule back then, so it was a long period of time not playing the game. So for example, the speed was there, but the way that you battle against the others in the virtual is a little bit different. But being back on the game, playing more often, definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, well, practice does make perfect. Well, we're super glad that you're back. Are you going to come and dominate from now on then? Is this the first of many?
Hopefully, that's the idea.
You're on top now with Toyota and on the same points as Mazda. Just keep it up and maybe we'll talk again soon. Who knows?
Yes, who knows? I think for the World Final will be very important to keep the consistency up. It will be very important the teamwork with the other drivers as well, because now on the round 3 and 4 it was just myself. But I'm glad that the same teammate that were on the World Series Showdown will be as well on the World Final. So this will definitely help as well.
Well, look, huge congratulations, and it's very lovely to have you back. More, please. Thanks, Igor.
Thank you.
Team Mazda's Ryota Kokubun came in second, and he joins me now too. Ryota, how are you doing? How did you find that race?
はい、予選から決勝までいいポジションをキープできたかなと思います。
Yeah, and what we really enjoyed though was the very, very sneaky last-minute overtake. Were you waiting the whole time for the right moment to make that move?
ポルシェがピットアウトしてきた時に前に出てきたので、これは後ろでついていくのが正解かなと思い、その結果うまく最後のストレートでオーバーテイクできました。
Well, it definitely was a smart move there, because now Mazda are on equal points with Toyota. So going into the World Finals, you're going to need to push past Toyota. What's the plan?
とにかく練習を重ねて、あとはチームメイトと協力することを一番に考えて、トヨタといいバトルができるように頑張りたいと思います。
Well, I think all of us are looking forward to that final Manufacturers Series race of the year. Huge congratulations on doing so well, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
ありがとうございます。
Another good result for Team Porsche and Jose Serrano in third. So, Jose, talk us through what happened in that race. What went down?
Bueno, pues la carrera era para mí un poco de ahorrar detrás de los dos japoneses, de Kokubun y Araki, y adelantarlo en boxes, pero ha salido Kokubun detrás mía y al final de la carrera me ha pasado.
You've been doing incredibly well in this competition. You're incredibly consistent. I mean, the amount of conversations that we've had, which means obviously that you're doing super well. And how have you kept managing to keep finishing in the top 3? What's your secret?
Bueno, pues el secreto está en esforzarse cada día y sobre todo en la mente, ¿no? En la cabeza. Porque si no estás bien mentalmente, psicológicamente, no sale nada.
So moving forward, what's the strategy? I mean, we've got one more Manufacturers Series event in the World Finals, and how are you going to apply everything that you've learned this year to make sure that you're going to win?
Bueno, pues seguir como lo estoy haciendo ahora, ¿no? Y también confiar en Ángel y en su Aguara para que también consigamos al menos un podio en la World Final.
Well, we shall see. It's very exciting, and we're all on the edges of our seats to see how you get on. Well done again today, and good luck in the World Finals.
Thank you.
Right, let's pop over to the GT garage and get the thoughts of Tom and Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks very much, Julian. Welcome over then to the GT Garage. Let's have a look then, shall we, at some key moments from that Manufacturer Series race in World Series 4. First of all, let's have a look at this race start. On board here with Quinten Hall, who had an absolute shocker of a getaway from the line.
I think he forgot it was the right pedal that makes you go at the start there. It was a real shame for him, and then that was sort of capped off here on the first lap, going a bit wide there through the miss complex and putting it in the wall on the inside, going from 8th down to 11th. Easy to do, but very frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be really disappointed with that, Quinten, and you can see that quite visibly there with his frustration. I mean, it's understandable, really, when you've got so much effort and time going into these events that you make a simple mistake like that and it costs you dear.
Well, given as well that Peugeot haven't actually qualified for the World Finals, so that was his last race, and he went into this race saying, I really want to have a good last race here, and that ain't it.
No, absolutely not. Let's have a look at something else from that race then, shall we? This is Yuki Araki getting past Ryota Kokubun in the early stages of the race. Araki then in the Dodge Viper, the V10 machine, using the power of that car to get himself through. But crucially, when it came to the pit stops, Kokubun and his fuel-saving tactics worked wonders.
Yeah, how much was that less? Like 11 litres or something like that? Less?
6.1 seconds we worked it out, didn't we?
Yeah, a massive amount of time to be stationary in the pit lane there, and that really put paid to his race. But Ryota Kokubun, it was him and Jose Serrano who were fighting towards the end of this race, and I think this is where Serrano actually lost out his chance of coming second here by going wide on his in-lap, picking up 0.5 a second penalty. Then it came down to this on the straight.
Yeah, absolutely right. Serrano then losing out second position on the final lap to Ryota Kokubun. Then a brilliant drive from Kokubun. Disappointment there for Serrano. Tried everything he could to get that position back right towards the end, but just ran out of circuit.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see these guys dueling with each other as well, but that Mazda down the straight was a bit of a bullet, wasn't it? So really, that was kind of it was over before it was over, if that makes sense, of Serrano. But one guy who had a fantastic race was Igor Fraga. Led from the start, pole position, fast lap, all the honours next to his name. He just seemed that he was completely at ease here.
Contrasting fortunes then, wasn't it, really, compared to Jose Serrano? Absolutely brilliant performance there from Igor Fraga. Didn't go quite so smoothly at one point in the race. Yeah, that would have got him clenching a little bit. But just a brilliant performance there from Igor Fraga. Just exactly what we love to see from the Brazilian driver. Coming around the final corner here, as you said, Jimmy, pole position, fastest lap, and the race win in the Manufacturer Series. What did it mean for him? A bit of that, eh?
Yes.
Although, he did reference this.
I almost died in a corner.
He knows though, doesn't he? I mean, like, the thing is, he was so close to having a monumental crash there. He knew that too. It goes to show that he was still pushing though. Even though he had that gap, he was pushing the entire way, and a little sort of mini mistake was evidence of that.
An interesting strategy call there as well, because he was one of the few drivers who didn't change his tyres. He stayed on the same compound of hard tyres from the start to the end of the race. And what do you think that was all about?
I was sort of confused by that, because you don't seem to actually lose any time by taking the tyres. Maybe he just felt really at ease of it. Sometimes you can get familiar with a set of tyres, even virtually, and I think he just felt, OK, I'm happy with these, no point in changing what I know, let's just continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look then, shall we, at the standings then after that. You can see that Toyota and Mazda are tied on points and 13 at the top. Peugeot and Dodge are not going through to the World Finals. They'll be replaced by BMW and Hyundai, so their positions are kind of irrelevant at this stage. You can see also pretty close there for fifth position between Porsche and Volkswagen.
Congratulations once again to Igor Fraga, and his latest win is the perfect cue to remind you that the three biggest shows of the Gran Turismo calendar are almost upon us. Next month brings the World Finals. Igor was our very first winner of the Nations Cup back in 2018, and he also won the Manufacturers Series with Team Toyota in 2019. But can he topple our reigning triple champion Takuma Miyazono and Team Subaru this time around? Well, you'll have to watch to find out. Our first World Finals programme is the Toyota Gazoo Racing GT Cup, which you can catch on Friday, December the 3rd. The World Finals for the Manufacturer Series is on Saturday, December the 4th. And to see who'll seize the coveted Nations Cup crown, please join us on Sunday, December the 5th. Talking of the Nations Cup, there's one more race to go before those World Finals, and the chasing pack will be looking to pick up the maximum 3 points and close the gap on championship leader Valerio Gallo from Italy. Valerio has opened up a 5-point gap at the top, but beyond that, there's only 5 points separating the next 6 drivers. So every one of our racers will feel that they can put themselves in with a chance of winning the 2021 Nations Cup if they can perform well in today's race.
And another win, so I was very happy. But also I was convincing myself that I can always keep the challenge and I can always stick to the top positions.
Batir a Valerio Gallo es muy difícil porque, como he dicho antes, es muy rápido y solo puedo batirlo cuando pueda fallar en alguna carrera.
Oh! There's a little bit of a slide there from your whole and Gallo. I'm not sure that was contact there.
Quinton was in first position leading, had a mistake, which in that track is very easy to do, and yeah, I managed to pass and then defend as best as I could till the end.
Gallo sneaks through into the lead so quick that we didn't see him.
The experience I had at Big Willow was pretty good. I got my first pole position in the Nations Cup and I converted that to my first podium in the Nations Cup as well.
De competir contra Gallo y Quinten fue muy bonita porque son dos pilotos muy buenos y muy rápidos y son muy inteligentes también, así que era muy difícil de adelantarlo.
Kokubun, Gallo and Serrano, our three drivers, are always very fast, so it will be difficult to beat them, but I will try to give my best.
車とコースの自分とのその相性がうまく噛み合わなかったというか、あまりコースに馴染むことができなかったのが流れに乗れなかった原因だと思います。
I will not make any mistakes in World Series 4 because it will put me in a better position for the World Finals.
I must be 100% accurate.
We make the show, first of all, and we are approaching also the World Finals. We just have to give it all, so good luck.
OK, time for some more Nations Cup drama. And the car that'll be the centre of all the action is the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3, which is one very stylish motor. Yeah. Let's see how well our drivers can get it to perform during qualifying.
Let's take a closer look then, shall we, at the circuit we're going to be competing at. It's the Fuji International Speedway in the Nations Cup, and it's the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3 machine. Racing hard and medium tyres available for the drivers, but interestingly, you can see there the drivers must start the race on a different tyre compound to the ones that they used in qualifying. And speaking of qualifying, it's a single lap affair once again for an 18-lap race, 2 tons fuel consumption, 7 times tyre wear, and a standing start once again for our drivers in World Series 4. It's going to make it really interesting over the course of this race to see what happens. But first of all, let's get into qualifying. Let's look at some key moments then from that qualifying session. This is Nikita Moisov on his hot lap, on the curb, lit the rear tyres up, and bang! Into the wall there for the Czech Republic driver, meaning that his qualifying came to nothing, sadly. Likewise, Lucas Bonelli there as well. A mistake running wide, track limits for him, picks up a half-second penalty as a result of that. And sadly, that means that he will start from the very back of the grid. In stark contrast to this man here, Tomoaki Yamanaka. To the timing line, he went to provisional pole with just under 6 minutes of the session then remaining. Now, Takuma Miyazono was in emphatic form. You can see here 0.2 of a second up as he came towards the line to break the beam, and he would join his fellow Japanese drivers at the sharp end of the grid, taking provisional pole at this stage. Angel Nostroza was the bad lap time there for the Chilean driver. Seemed to hook it up towards the end of the lap more than anything and went third quickest in that part of the session. Igor Fraga, meanwhile, looks like he was a 0.1 of a second down at this point, but again, like most drivers, improved in the final sector quite dramatically. Over the line he went, second quickest at that stage. Jose Serrano also making good ground, easily the best performing of the three Spaniards, I should say, on the grid here for this weekend. Valerio Gallo, 0.1 of a second down in the final sector, but over the line he pulled it out of the bag with brilliant style to take provisional pole position. In stark contrast, and a role reversal for Ryota Kokubun here. You can see he was up in the final sector, but over the line he dropped all that time and ended up only 5th on the grid. So here is how the grid then lines up for the Nations Cup race for World Series 4. Valerio Gallo, Takuma Miyazono on the front row of the grid, Igor Fraga, Jose Serrano on the second row, then a duo of Japanese drivers in Ryota Kokubun and Tomoaki Yamanaka. Big work to do though for Nikita Moisov, Koke Lopez quite far down the order, and also Quentin Yahul not having a brilliant qualifying down in P11. Let's see what happens though when the lights go out.
What a stunning lap by Italy's Valerio Gallo, grabbing pole position. But what does this mean for the race ahead? Let's find out from Tom and Julie. What does it mean? Tell me.
I've got no idea. Have you got an idea?
Well, some idea. It's my job to know. But obviously.
Yeah, Fuji International Speedway is the venue then. This is a circuit that I really like, but some others aren't so keen on it. What's that all about?
Yeah, I'm actually in the others camp. I just find that, for me, the second section is actually quite tricky to overtake in, and it's very much a tyre killer. And as a driver, it's frustrating to see your tyres go off. But I think very much if you're going to lean into the cliche and say it's a bit of a circuit of two halves, because on the first half you have this massive straight. I think it's the longest on a GP certified circuit. And then the second half is basically someone's got a pen and gone, and that's how it looks.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sort of big overtaking spots then. On the start-finish straight down into T1, we love that because, you know, you get some big sends into there. And also there's later on the lap, there's another heavy braking zone at about turn 10, something along the lines of that. So, yeah, I'm keen to see what the drivers are going to do. But if we look at the first one then, the start-finish straight down into that first corner, we've got some footage of last year here at the World Finals. Talk us through this, Jimmy.
Yeah, this is Jose Serrano and Valerio Gallo. Gallo there putting a little GR Yaris into a spot they probably shouldn't go into, but up the inside at T1 there, used the draft down a massive straight, got the overspeed, and then just up the inside, slotted into first place. That's pretty much as textbook as a T1 pass gets.
And the thing is, we sit here and we talk about, or stand here rather, I should say, we talk about all of these overtaking spots. It's all well and good that, but these guys like to get their elbows out, and they'll probably invent some that we haven't spoken about.
I hope they do, because I don't want to see a whole race of T1 overtakes, but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be our guys. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Julia, back to you.
Thank you. It's so hard to pick a winner in advance. I mean, so why bother when you can just find out who'll win by watching round 4 of the 2021 Nations Cup with us right now?
So the grid then is lined up, ready to go for the Nations Cup race here for World Series 4 in the FIA certified Gran Turismo Championships. It's Valerio Gallo who lines up on pole position, and he has got the hometown hero, Takuma Miyazono, the triple reigning champion, alongside him on the front row of the grid. Igor Fraga heads row 2 for Brazil. And alongside Igor, it is Jose Serrano, the very fast young Spaniard. Keep an eye out for him off the start. Ryota Kokubun lines up on the head of row 3. It's an all-Japanese third row, though, with Tomoki Yamanaka for company alongside him. Then next up on the grid, we have Angel Enestrosa, the Chilean driver, having somewhat of a resurgence, it must be said, at this latter stage of the season, with Kanata Kawakami for company alongside him. Then it's Nico Romero lining up in P9. And completing the top 10, Andrew Lee, the Australian driver. See how he is going to fare from that far back on the grid. Quinten Hall, the young Belgian, lines up P11. Difficult qualifying session for him. He's got Adriano Carrazza for company alongside him, the Brazilian driver. Next up, we've got Adam Tapai, who, again, not a good qualifying session for him down in P13. Let's hope that he makes some forward progress in the race. And likewise, Koke Lopez, the fast young Spaniard. We're hoping that we'll see him fighting inside the top 10. Nikita Moisov is P15 on the grid, the Czech driver. And then, of course, Lucas Pinelli, who didn't set a time in the session, had it disallowed owing to breaking track limits, lines up in P16. Revs are up then, we're ready for the start of round 4 of World Series in the 2021. It's the Nations Cup race here at the Fuji International Speedway. Let's see who's going to get the drag down towards the first corner as the 5 red lights come on. Lights out, and we're racing for Valerio Gallo leading the way from Takuma Miyazono, who's going to get their drag down towards the first corner. They're side by side with Miyazono on the inside here of Valerio Gallo. Look at Serrano and look at Fraga trying to go for the outside. Miyazono's on the inside, he's later on the brakes. Can he get the lead away from Valerio Gallo as Serrano gets up into third position? It's Miyazono still on the inside. They're side by side as they come into towards the left-hander. Gallo has the race lead, has track position and holds firm. So into the left-hander, it's Gallo from Miyazono, from Serrano, from Fraga. out. Kami and Lee drop back a little bit off the start there, but a textbook getaway from Valerio Gallo, holding his nerve and holding firm.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Gallo was a little bit slow off the grid there, and Miyazono nearly had a chance to get up the inside and get through, but Gallo able to hold him there and keep the lead for now. We're on board with Igor Fraga, now having a look at Jose Serrano for our second overtaking spot, really down here, bottom of the hills, a hairpin, it's a right-hander, so will Fraga go to the inside? Let's have a look in the draft. Jose Serrano looks to the inside, no, manages to stay where he is for now, and Nicky Romero also looking at Yamanaka in the background, though. That's Adriano Carrazza going for a big move. There's contact between him and Lopez, which in turn spins Romero, and I'll be very surprised if that isn't a penalty for Carrazza.
There was already an incident being looked at there, I think, involving Carrazza and Andrew Lee as well, so big drama on the opening lap as we ride on board here with Valerio Gallo in towards the left hand, and we're going in towards the final sector of the lap. Serrano just a tad wide going through there. Let's see what he is going to be able to do as we come on towards the start-finish straight. All these drivers pushing a hole in the air. Of course, Valerio Gallo, the only one of those who doesn't have the advantage of a car in front to give him a slipstream down this start-finish straight. Here is Andrew Lee with Tomoki Yamanaka, who's gone backwards slightly off of the start, lost a position. Let's see if he can gain that position again as they come down the start-finish straight. Here's Miyazono versus Gallo for the race lead as they come side by side down to the first corner. Miyazono with the slipstream there. Gallo not holding him up too much. Fraga has a look on the brakes, meanwhile, of Serrano for P3. Doesn't make it stick. As we look at a replay here, this is what happened off the start. So this is Lucas Benelli who was involved in the incident at the start. I apologise, not Adriano Carrazza. Here he is. Let's see what happens as they come down towards the first corner. On the brakes. Oh, Lopez into the side of Carrazza. Just too many cars into one space there by the looks of things.
Yeah, but it actually went very well for Benelli in terms of position. He's up 7 places from where he started, 8 places now, in fact, as he gets past Lopez and Moisov. So, although he started from the back of the field, everybody else is dismayed. Oh, and Lopez comes across very late there. I think a little bit of a tap there on Benelli. And Benelli's been forced out wide. You can see in the picture-in-picture, I'm sure some choice words there from Lucas in the top left there. But now Nikita Moisov is side by side. It's become downhill to that hair, but once again, they're going to go free wide for a second. Lopez looks up the inside too. A bit more contact. It's a very rough race so far from our drivers. They're definitely getting the elbows out and a bit more. But then just runs Lopez off the circuit. No love lost at all between these drivers. They're still going at it in the background.
Oh, there we go. Look at the hole on the inside. Carrazza with contact there as well. Lopez on the inside of Nico Romero. Side by side here with Lopez going through. So Carrazza goes backwards as the two Spaniards duel for 11th position. Romero ahead of Lopez for the time being. It all got really, really tight in there. The thing is, they need to get their elbows out because the problem is with the strategy that these guys have got, starting on the hard compound of tyre, they're all going to change over to the medium compound of tyre at some point in this race, and there's not really any sort of break-up in strategy that they're going to have to do, so the overtaking is going to have to be on track.
Yeah, I mean, it's with this straight being as long as it is, it does mean we get a bit of a train effect. Lots of cars sort of running together, waiting for that opportunity to pounce, and right now Miyazono is leading that train. He is the conductor of the Fuji Express. So Gallo, though, although of course looking to try and just hold on for now. Just a quick mention for Lee in 7th place. He's made up 3 places from his starting position as well. He is just about at the back of the train at the moment, though.
What's happened to Ryota Kokubun? He's down in P9. He's had an absolute shocker once again in the Nations Cup. If you hark back to World Series 3 very recently, he ended up spinning off at the Big Willow and going right down towards the back of the field. And again, he's dropped 9 positions in the opening 3 laps. So something's gone wrong there for the Japanese driver.
Yeah, down to P14 now is Ryota Kokubun. I was about to get to that, but he jumps in before me there. And there it is, the inevitable penalty for Carrazza. I've got to say that the aggression we've seen from him this season has been, it doesn't seem very targeted. Usually the aggression comes with some sort of plan, but now it just seems that he's doing the racing equivalent of flailing his arms about on these first few laps, and the result is that he's just losing so much time to penalties, and this is another example where the Brazilians got it wrong. So a disappointing season, I think it's fair to say, for Carrazza.
See the top 7 there, putting a bit of a gap between themselves and Lucas Benelli. Benelli, of course, who started right at the back of the field, 2.9 seconds adrift. So kind of the top 7 splintering away from the rest of that group as they've all been squabbling amongst one another. And to be honest, that's going to be disappointing there for Benelli because he's gotten so far, and you wonder whether he's sort of almost reached his ceiling a bit early.
Yeah, interesting to see, by the way, that Gallo just isn't going for the overtake. He's staying behind Miyazono. I think this is maybe the strap, is to stay there, Save a bit of fuel, although I'm not really sure you need to save fuel in this. I think you do have to. There is a fuel stop in this race you might need to take. So just taking it easy and just making so if there is any sort of fuel stop that comes into it, then he'll have. Oh, and Miyazono on the curb there just got onto the grass on the outside, took me totally by surprise, and then just fired himself off to the left. A bit of a smile on his face there, but I'm sure he's not thinking, oh, that was fun. But that just maybe got a wheel in the grass in the acceleration zone and just spun it up. When that happens, you are a passenger, so not even the best driver in the world is going to save that.
Well, the thing is with that as well is that he, of course, is going to have a little bit of mechanical damage to suffer from that for a little bit of time as well, so that's going to compromise his pace. It will be a bit of a welcome sight there for Lucas Spinelli, because he'll be trying to see if he can work with, or perhaps even get past Miyazono. He's got Nikita Moisov behind him at the moment, is Lucas Spinelli, so he's in quite an unenviable position of trying to attack Miyazono and trying to keep a watching brief on his mirrors behind. Let's have a look at a replay then. So coming in towards turn 3, into the left-hander we go, on the inside, on the curb on the outside there, just lit up the rear tyres. Oh, lit up the rear tyres, straight to the scene of the accident.
Yeah, no grip out there. That AstroTurf seems fairly slippy. It means Miyazono now, of course, has it all to do to get onto the back of his train again. So he's now leading the second train, so to speak, which is actually got Lucas Spinelli in a great start from him, +8 on his starting position. Here are the predicted points. If the race ended as it were right now, Gallo would be leading on 18 points from Serrano with 12. And Kokubun, owing to a strong first half of the season, would still be in third despite not scoring at any of the races recently. So here we are then down to T1 again. See Fraga, they're getting very late on the brakes. The Ferrari just squirming as it tries to find some sort of traction on those calipers, and then just about getting out of the corner again. And at the moment, it's a 4-horse race, as Yamanaka has dropped a little bit off the back of Kawakami. And this is what we're going to see, really, is whoever's in it on the last few laps in this little train, they're going to be the ones within a chance of actually winning this thing, but it's about getting there in the first place.
Let me say, it's really disappointing for Quinten Hall, by the way, down in P15, the young Belgian driver, finished on the podium in World Series 3 very recently. Come back to that, here's Moisov down the inside, goes through on Takuma Miyazono, so Miyazono continues his descension through the field, now down into P10 as he runs it a bit wide, loses down to Nico Romero, so from P7 down to P10. I think he's just lost his rhythm a bit here now.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I think that what happened there really is, one, he's gone for a trip, shall we say, off to the left-hand side of the circuit. While he's doing that, those tyres are getting big scrub, a lot of heat put through those tyres as well, and these Michelin hard compounded tyres are fairly durable, but when you do that to them, they overheat, and then for the next lap or so, your car doesn't quite have the same grip as it did sort of pre-spin. So I think he's just trying to get back into that rhythm. I know he'll be able to do it. It's Takuma Miyazono. He's a legend in the GT sport community and online as well, of course. So if anyone claws his way back from the field, it's him, but he's going to get on with it because he's running out of time.
So disappointed with that just being right down at the fringes of the top 10 as it stands at the moment. Coming down the start finish straight, there we are, starting lap number 6 then out of 18 here at the Fuji International Speedway. It's Valerio Gallo with the race lead. Jose Serrano there, you can see him lifting off the throttle with the graphics on the right hand side of your screen there, so just not trying to find his way through, as Nikita Moisov does find his way through. And Lucas Spinelli, here's a sendo from Nico Romero. That's really late. What a lunge from the Spaniard, a willing dance partner there with Lucas Spinelli just keeping a watching eye on his mirrors, giving the racing room to Romero. Down the inside he goes and through into 8th position.
Did you say sendo from Romero?
Possibly. Possibly did.
I like that. That's a new one for Nicky Romero. I'll enjoy that. But meanwhile, back to the front of the field, it's Gallo, Serrano and Fraga. These guys are starting to put away a little bit from Kawakami behind, and then of course Yamanaka's pushing his fellow countryman to try and get to the back of the train. Here is Lucas Spinelli, who's just lost that place, of course, to Romero. Nikita Moisov is now leading this sort of train. And Moisov is someone who I felt was very, very quick at the start of the season, but has sort of fallen off the pace a little bit as it got later in.
Yeah, he just seems to, and like you say, falling off the boil. It's a big shame there for Moisov. He's kind of been consistently inconsistent, so to speak. He's sort of been there and thereabouts in some places. Remember back to the Olympic Virtual Series, he was relatively quick there earlier on this year, but again, just seems to be a bit hit and miss. Much like, as I was mentioning earlier on, Quinten Hall, who is down in P15 at the moment. He's having a shocker, didn't qualify very well, hasn't made a lot of progress in this race, hasn't helped with the incidents in the lower half of the field as well, I'm sure, but regardless, he'll be disappointed with that. So onto the start-finish straight we go once again. Now, you're Lucas Spinelli, you're in P9, you've made progress. and you can see these guys sort of beginning to drive away as here comes Serrano on Valerio Gallo. So they go side by side. Serrano then does take the lead away from Valerio Gallo in towards the first corner on the brakes. Textbook move there from Serrano. Little bit late there, misses the apex ever so slightly, but just has enough room to be able to hold on to that lead on the corner exit.
It's easy to do that when you're running offline. If you're running on the inside of a circuit there, it's super easy just to sort of misjudge where the apex is, because the corner is fundamentally different from what you've taken before. But here is Valerio Gallo now on board. Now, that was very much a statement of intent from Jose Serrano, saying, well, you know, I'm not happy just driving around behind you, because every lap that Serrano is behind Gallo, he's under threat from Igor Fraga. We know how aggressive Fraga is capable of being when he wants that place. So just putting a little buffer between him and the Brazilian driver, I think we'll feel a little bit better now driving around the front of the pack.
So we've got to consider strategy in this race as well, Ginny, at some point, because of course tyres are a factor, as we know. Fuel shouldn't be too much of a concern for these drivers, as we understand it. We're not expecting them to be refueling over the course of the race, but in terms of tyres, they've got a hard tyre and a medium tyre available for them. They had to start the race on the opposite compound to which they qualified, so everybody then starting on the hard compound of tyre. Do you think anybody's going to try and diverge from just doing a one-stop?
I mean, possibly. I don't honestly see the point of it, though. As we're seeing an instant flash up on the screen between Lopez and Rahul, there don't really mean much to this race at the moment, unfortunately, so we won't be getting to them. Live point standings on the screen again, just a little update. Gallo, of course, will still be leading. Serrano scoring a few more points for winning, and Kokubun still in third place. He did very well, Kokubun, to score points early, didn't he, given his recent form. But just on back to strategy, I don't see how more than doing a one-stop would work. Around here, it's such a long pit lane as well, with such a long straight, you just lose so much time doing it, so it's not really worth doing. But you might pit a little bit early to try and get the undercut of the guy in front of you, but given how strong the toe is around here, that will probably be negated. So I think really it's just drive until the tyre feels bad, and then or just pit where everybody else pits.
The top three, Serrano, Gallo and Fraga here, seem to be almost working together at this point, because they've built a gap of 1.3 seconds up to Tomoki Yamanaka, who sits in fourth position there currently. So I wonder whether they're just sort of splintering themselves off into their own little trio as it stands in this race, and then going to squabble it out amongst them as the race comes in towards its conclusion a little bit later on. So we're approaching the halfway stage now in this race. This is where we should see the pit stops coming into play over the next couple of laps or so, and I wonder whether, if you're Igor Fraga, are you going to try and dart yourself in early, maybe get the undercut and get into some clear air?
Well, again, the toe is worth a lot there, and Fraga, a little mistake coming out of the chicane there. He used to do that in this car. Mid-engine car, remember, rear-wheel drive as well, so once you start rotating, unless you stop rotating, then you end up spinning off into the wall somewhere. So you have to sort of get on the throttle when the car's set up to do that, which is why he lost a bit of ground there. But as I was saying before, yeah, I don't see the point, really. I think Fraga's best bet is to just pit the guys in front of it, use that draft, and then maybe work on the move towards the end of the race.
Here we are then on board with Nikita Moisov sitting in P7. Nico Romero getting really sideways then into that right-hander. That allows an opportunity for Lucas Benelli to just have a sneaky little look up the inside, and also crucially gives a bit of breathing room there for Moisov. Compromises the exit of the corner there for Romero, and you can see that really visibly as Benelli and Miyazono are ready to try and join the party. But going into the pit lane there was Miyazono and Romero, so they decide to dart in at the end of lap 9. So we're now into the pit window at the halfway stage of this race. Three drivers coming in at the end of lap number 8 at the start of lap number 9, so that just gives a bit of breathing room there for Moisov and Benelli at the moment. So into the pits we go, onto the medium tyres here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're that far down, you've got to try something different. Miyazono really, he's someone who wants to win, so he'll try this now. Go onto the Michelin medium compound tyre, come out just behind Nicky Romero, and oh, that's
white
interesting.
Line.
Yeah, white line there. Usually our guys are quite strict on that, but we'll see if they are this time or not. But that could be an easy penalty for Miyazono there.
Yeah, not the first time that we've seen that over the course of this one. Well, I wonder if the stewards will be having a little look. Let's wait and see if we have anything flashing up on our screen. So, on board we ride here with Igor Fraga, really late on the brakes again. That's the second time he's missed a couple of apexes. It just looked a bit scrappy over the last couple of laps or so. Do you think that could be because he's coming towards the end of his tyre life and maybe he's pushed that bit harder than those in front?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. You've got to remember these guys are putting about 500 horsepower through those rear tyres, and that doesn't matter in the front line, those corners trying traction out there. You do that enough, and the tyres, the more heat you put through them, the faster they wear, and as you get to the end of a cycle, naturally you have less grip, so it sort of just gets worse and worse and worse. Let's see if they fit in here, because we've had a few pit stops. Also, Serrano pulled to the right-hand side. They do usually do it quite late if they're going to do it. No, they don't, so they're still going for now. obviously still thinking that tyre can work for him.
Much like the pit exit, they have to run the white line of pit entry, so it would have been a really late lunge there. Kawakami does come into the pit lane then, so he's the first of the drivers inside the top 5 to come in. Benelli and Lee also following suit as they come down in towards the first corner of the race leaders at this stage. So onto the medium compound of tyre these drivers are going, and it looks like Serrano, Fraga, Gallo, etc. are all going to presumably wait towards the end of this lap, maybe even a lap later before they come in and just try and run these hard tyres for as long as they can, seemingly.
I think that, as we said before, this is down to the toe. It's about making sure you're getting towed along. And round here, although these cars, these GT3 Group 3 cars, they do have a bit of aero to them. It isn't like if you're following, let's say, in a Group X car where there's so much aero that you get disturbed by the car in front. Maybe you get a little bit in this, but it's offset by the amount of time you gain in a straight line. So honestly, it's better to run like this, I think, than run on your own, unless you have a significant pace advantage, which if you're on the medium tyre, you would actually have right now. So I don't know, I'll be interested to see, because Kawakami is the lead of the medium runners. We'll see whether he appears compared to these guys once they appear.
Sector times are looking strong there for Kawakami. That's to be expected. He's on fresher medium tyres. Everybody else is on really worn hard tyres at this stage. Do you think it's a bit of a shame that we're having to see these drivers kind of following same strategies just because of the length of that straight? Do you think it would be arguably a little bit more exciting at this stage if there wasn't such a long straight and they weren't having to follow the slipstream?
Just the nature of the course, you know, there are circuits across the world with different characteristics, and this is Fuji, and the characteristic is it's a big straight. Now, we're seeing some pit stops now finally for our lead bet. Oh, Fraga misses the pit entry into Yamanaka. Interesting. I wonder if the stewards are going to pick up on that at all.
Yeah, we saw that last year, didn't we? Drivers coming over the pit entry line. So let's keep an eye out and see whether the stewards are going to be investigating it. Now, here is Kawakami. He's the fastest of the medium runners because he's the lead medium runner at this stage in the race. We're looking here at Igor Fraga from 3rd position into the pit lane, then onto the medium compound tyre. Now, where is he going to emerge as they come out of the pit lane there? We saw Kawakami was quite far up the road. Let's see what happens as they emerge from the pit lane there and across it. The white line once again there for Igor Fraga. Side by side he runs with Valerio Gallo. Jose Serrano's into the race lead from Gallo, then from Fraga, from Kanata Kawakami. So Kawakami's really made some ground on this trio since before his pit stop. If you remember, before the pit stop the gap was about 3 seconds or so. Now it's just over 0.6 of a second. So that set it up really nicely as we come in towards the crescendo stage of this race then. So on the brakes, in towards the left-hander. Serrano from Gallo, from Fraga, from Kawakami, from Yamanaka as we come through the left-hander. And instead of it being a 3-way scrap, it's now nearly a 6-way scrap.
But you like to see when the strategies sort of converge and then you end up with this crescendo. I mean, we've got still 7 laps left, so there's a lot of time for stuff to happen here. But now, as you say, instead of there being 3, there's 5 different possibilities this could end. And if Andrew Lee gets that way, he has got a bit of a move on. It's now 6, so it's looking like the strategy to go onto the mediums early has worked out for Kawakami. I mean, he's back where he started, but he's still there with this group. And to be honest, the tyres will fall off for him a bit quicker towards the end, but with the toe, it shouldn't matter so much. So maybe he's put himself in a good place here.
Yeah, absolutely. The tyre multiplier is ×7, so it's like an equivalent of 7 laps, and he's done 1 lap more. So it's going to be, as you say, a little bit more worn towards the end of this one. Now, let's see what happens here. I wonder whether these drivers are going to be start attacking each other. It's quite an early stage to do that, being just over the halfway point in this race, or whether they're going to wait a little bit more. Let's see. Gallo pulls out of the slipstream there. Fraga also following suit there. So Gallo there just doing the sensible thing. We saw him do this actually last year here in the World Finals, just pulling out of the slipstream, just giving himself a bit of time, bit of breathing space, and not wanting to go too hard too soon, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a way just to avoid driving into the back of someone. If you don't want to get the run and then let off, because then you're giving that run to the guy behind you as well. So sometimes it's sensible just to pull out and just almost message the guy behind saying, I don't really want to be scrapping for this now. And Igor 130, he's a clever guy. He's been racing for a very long time, both in GT and in the real world as well. He'll know what that means. So, but you find as the laps sort of run down, those little messages, those little sort of, hey, let's work together, then they stop very quickly, and it just becomes every man for himself.
So in towards turn 10 we go. Now Fraga, Gallo and Serrano still lead the way, putting a bit more daylight between themselves, only by half a tenth or so over that last sector between them and Kanata Kawakami, but still very much in touching distance
very much within the slipstreaming distance here as well. You can see Serrano there and Gallo on the left-hand side of your picture. Serrano, of course, finishing second last time out in round 3 of the World Series, and Gallo, of course, being the victor. Can he make it 2 World Series wins in 2 events? Let's see whether that is going to be a possibility for the Italian driver, or whether we'll see Serrano on the top step of the podium for the first time in 2021 in the World Series. So, down the start-finish straight we go, starting lap number 12 here at the Fuji International Speedway. On board we ride here with Tomoki Yamanaka. Now, he's sat here behind Kawakami, and he's had something of a quiet weekend here so far, but he's about to try and make his move and assert his authority on Kawakami. Side by side they go, late on the brakes, more grip under braking. The slipstream, of course, helping him with the overspeed into the first corner. Easy as you like, P4 now for Yamanaka.
That's interesting because they do lose time by doing that. Now the gap to Yamanaka is, from Fraga is now a second. So now he needs to try and reel that back in again for this midsection so he can get onto this front pack. Interestingly, I was just seeing whether you were able to pass the car in front using the toe from the last corner. Would you pass it before the start-finish line? You do not. So you have to make the pass. If you're going to make it anywhere, yeah, you have to be leading, basically, going into the last corner to win this race. That might sound a bit silly when you put it that way, but the draft is such a big factor here that it's always worth sort of running those simple simulations in your mind when you're driving around just to see where you would be if you were to try that move in the last lap.
And this is one of the prime overtaking spots on that last lap, then, if it does indeed come down to that. But as you rightly said there, Jimmy, the top 3 now splintering away once again into their own trio, and that presumably is just down to tyre performance at this point, you would imagine, and just clearly pace between the top 3 drivers. They qualified up the sharp end of the field for a very good reason, and they just seem to have a bit more pace underneath them. Fresher tyres by 1 lap. It's not a massive difference, but it is clearly making something of a difference. And now one wonders whether Yamanaka is going to be able to close up onto the back of that trio and try and challenge for the lead of the race.
He did gain on them through the last sector, Yamanaka, and I think it's not so much tyre performance, more just the fact that they had a bit of a squabble in the first corner. Because when you're not running the ideal line, you're losing time. Even if you're just overtaking, it feels like a quick overtake, you still lose a few tenths of a second doing that. Lee, interestingly, I thought he wasn't going to go for it. I thought he let off, but he didn't. No, he's going to go for the move as well. Kawakami, I think, struggling a bit now. He's lost 1 place, now 2 places. There goes up the inside. Will he be able to follow Yamanaka, though? And again, look at the relative. You can see that he's now moved down to about 8 tenths of a second behind the Japanese driver, whereas before, these guys were right on his bumpers. So that's how much time you lose there. And that's how overtaking sometimes can actually be a bit of a bad thing.
So on board we ride here with Valerio Gallo, just modulating the throttle and keeping himself nice and calm as they go through that right-hander on the brakes and in towards the left. Nice and tidy and smooth driving. The thing is, we've seen drivers who have got more of an aggressive driving style, wrenching the wheel. I guess when you're trying to preserve the tyres and just trying to get such a small difference between yourself and the other competitors that you're fighting with, if you can just save that little bit more of your tyres, you know, under traction or under hard cornering, then it makes a difference, right?
There is such a thing as overdriving. You can really push your car too hard. If you're maybe trying to make up time, or you're thinking, I've got to go up to the back of this guy, you'll start putting more inputs into the wheel, into the pedals, just to try and desperately find another tenth or so. What usually happens is that maybe that'll work once, and then the rest of the time you're just overworking the car, you're overworking the engine as well, and you just find yourself falling back with a car that is wearing quicker. So usually in that scenario, it's better just to do what these guys are doing. Be nice and smooth, be very decisive with your movements, and don't second guess yourself. That is the quickest way to drive, I think, in these cars here at Fuji, and it's being displayed very well by both Jose Serrano and Valerio Gallo. So now Serrano is feeling the need to start defending from Gallo. We know Gallo isn't adverse to just sticking it up against the pit wall there from the footage we saw earlier on, but look to the outside now. Here comes Igor Fraga. Oh, very deep on the brakes. Punts Valerio Gallo there. Of course, not intentional from Igor Fraga, but still contact nonetheless. That sort of saved Serrano a bit there, didn't it?
It certainly did, yeah. So Serrano goes back into the lead, Gallo into second, and Fraga into third position. It's really easy to do that. You just get suckered in on the brakes and, you know, brake a little bit later, a few metres later. He's had the advantage of the slipstream there, of course, as well. A bit more speed, and just into the back there of Valerio Gallo. But thankfully, as you said, not costing him too much time.
So interesting, we've got a new toy for ourselves as commentators on the back end here. We have a top speed indicator, and Fraga now has the highest top speed of anyone, I think, owing to the fact that he didn't stop to that corner and went into the back of Valerio Gallo.
So Stuart's having a look at that, by the way. We just saw an instant investigation warning flashing up.
on the screen. So we'll see whether they do deem that as a racing incident. I imagine they will do, because it didn't cost anybody too much time, and it was simply just a mistake there from Fraga.
Well, I mean, like, it is Fraga's fault. He's at fault for that because he hit Gallo. But I think, given the context of the situation, that they're all still squabbling. I mean, the places are pretty much as they were before. Nothing was really lost or gained by anyone. So usually, it's not. The stewards use that discretion, so we'll see what they do.
Look at Yamanaka now. He's really closed up as these guys have been fighting amongst one another. That gap now sitting at 0.8 of a second, so that's as close as it's been for the last couple of laps. And I wonder whether Yamanaka is going to turn this from a trio into a quartet of drivers. Here we go, there with Serrano once again having to defend. Gallo into the slipstream there as they come down the start-finish straight. It's exactly the same as it was a lap before, but Gallo's got the overspeed, he's got the traction, and he's ahead before the braking zone here. Can he manage to make it stick though? Serrano's on the inside, Gallo has to go for the outside line. Serrano squeezed onto the curb, but Gallo holds firm, holds his nerve, holds the race lead as they come on the run down in towards the second corner. So in towards the left-hander we go, and it's Gallo that now leads the way from Serrano from Fraga. There's the live point standings. That's what it would mean if the race finished now.
No, interestingly, I think he's playing a bit of a game here, Gallo, because think about it, this lap, he'll give the toe to Serrano down the straight, so Serrano will be in the lead at lap 17, then next lap, coming on to the final lap, Gallo will get the toe of Serrano, and he'll be in the lead going into T1. So he's thinking ahead, Gallo, I think. At least I think he is. As you can see, no further action on the screen between that penalty earlier on, which is what we thought it would be. But as I was saying, I think that Gallo's using his head, or I'm giving him too much credit, I don't know. Maybe he is 800 IQ.
Yeah, no mistakes from these guys though at this latter stage in the race. Just over 2 laps now remaining. And here is Andrew Lee. What a brilliant race it's been from Andrew Lee. Credit to him. He's made, 4 positions from where he started on the fringes of the top 10. And has just really sensibly kept his head, kept his cool where others haven't done so. And is now up inside the top 10 in P6, but possibly challenging for P5 on the back of Kanata Kawakami. Meanwhile, speaking of challenging, look at Tomoki Yamanaka, who's really closed that deficit down, and it now does become a 4-way battle for the race leaders as we come onto the start-finish straight again.
Here we go then. First, second, third, fourth covered by barely any time until Yamanaka just off the bat. We're going to get a great view of what's happening up front here as Gallo goes defensive. Serrano looks to try and go around the outside. Fraga's in the wheel tracks of Serrano now. Fraga then goes to the outside, take a better line to the corner, but he's a little bit late on the brakes. Gallo's still on the inside, hugs the line. Serrano slow, ends up holding up Fraga, and Yamanaka wasn't quite close enough to make the best of it. And interestingly now, Gallo's still leading. I'm not sure he wanted to be there, but he's defending hard like he does want to be there. So maybe the 800 IQ strap, not quite what Gallo's going for.
So through into the left-hander we go, and these top 4 now running nose to tail. Any mistakes here, they'll need that like a snooze button on the smoke alarm as they come through the right-hander and on the brakes in towards the left as we run aboard here with Yamanaka. Interestingly, Quinten Yahul, you can see on the graphic there, has just come into the pit lane towards the end of this one, going from the mediums to the medium compound of tyre. I said about possibly doing something different with the strategy. I wonder whether that's out of necessity because he might have knackered his tyres following earlier incidents.
Well, at least he wins a reward for most pit stops. Good job. In this race, you needed that, didn't you? But looking back now from Gallo, the rear wing of the Ferrari 458, the V8 howling there in the mid-engine layout, and it's very much between these 4 guys. Yamanaka seems like he's really trying to keep with these guys. I think he's right on the edge of speed with his car right now, so any mistake from any of them and he's there to pounce, but he does have to, he's really hustling the car to try and steady because he's sideways there coming off the curb. And then we come around this last corner for the second to last time. I've got a feeling it's going to be fireworks in a couple of metres time.
So down the start-finish straight we go, ready to start the final lap of round 4 of the World Series here then. Let's see what is going to happen. We ride on board with Tomoki Yamanaka, the calm Japanese driver. Let's see whether he is going to be able to get himself into podium contention. Sitting in P4, Gallo goes defensive from the race lead then. Serrano, Fraga and Yamanaka all following suit. Here comes Gallo versus Serrano side by side down in towards the first corner. Lace on the brakes, here comes Gallo on the inside. Can he make the move stick? Serrano tries to hold it firm around the outside there. They're running into the right-hander of turn 2, then on the brakes into the left of turn 3. Gallo into the lead then. Can he hold that lead until the end of this race?
That means realistically now there's only one more chance for overtakes to happen, and Yamanaka's looking up the inside of Fraga on this long right-hander. Couldn't quite get the nose in though, so has to follow through for now. There is a chance to send it up the inside here, but I'm not sure Serrano's going to go for it. He does close up though, so it means now we have one more big overtaking spot coming up now. This right-hander at the bottom of the hill. Will Serrano pounce?
Let's see then, through the right-hander we go. We're riding with Serrano then. Let's see whether he can make the move stick on Valerio Gallo. Needs to make that stick. Gallo knows that, goes for the defensive line. Serrano tries to have a look around the outside there. Fraga closing up onto the brakes. No moves being made though between the top four as we come in towards the final sector then. So Gallo holds firm and holds the race lead. Can he do that until the checkered flag as we come through into the final series of corners? Here's a battle for 6th place now as Lee has dropped off the back of Kawakami. He was battling with him earlier on, and now Moisov is trying to challenge up the inside. There's a bit of contact there between them as they come through the left-hander on the final sector. And now Moisov goes through, but Lee's back on the inside as we come through into the final corner and onto the start-finish straight. That's a great battle going on as Lee gets it all sideways, but Valerio Gallo holds on for the win in the Nations Cup for World Series 4 in the Fuji International Speedway. And Serrano takes second, Fraga in third, Yamanaka fourth, Kawakami fifth, Moisov in sixth, ahead of Andrew Lee by 600ths of a second at the line. But a great drive there from Valerio Gallo, keeping his calm and is cool under pressure. Well, an exciting climax to that race then. Valerio Gallo takes the spoils from Serrano from Fraga. What was the big surprise in that race for you, Jimmy?
I'd say a couple of them really. First of all, Miyazono having that mistake earlier on, down in 8th place there. Disappointing for him. And also Quinton Yahul being absolutely nowhere, 16th and last by quite a long way. So 2 big upsets there.
Let's have a look and see what that means for the points rankings, though, after World Series 4. It means that Gallo still sits on top of the pile. 18 points now compared to Jose Serrano and Ryota Kokubun. That's going to give him a big smile as wide as Italy. Going into the World Finals with that 6-point advantage over Jose Serrano. Quinton Yahul, as you said there, Jimmy, down in 14th position. Sadly, not scoring any points in this one. He's got a lot of work to do for those World Finals.
Wow, another epic Nations Cup victory from Italy's Valerio Gallo there. Valerio, how are you doing? How are you feeling after that?
Hola guys, and yeah, I'm so excited about this race because it was probably one of the most insane races after a while. So yeah, it also bring back the memories from the World Finals last year. So
honestly, it was very stressful. It was swinging backwards and forwards, and it really could have gone either way. I mean, how do you keep cool under that kind of pressure? Because it is a lot of pressure.
Well, let's say since the last races, I'm always trying to apply the same strategy all over again. but yeah, I tried something in the final laps just to, let's say, simulate the final laps and, you know, trying to guess the overtaking spot. Also, there was Igor who outbrake himself at turn 1, but luckily I let's say escaped from there, and it could have been worse. So yeah, also I really enjoyed the battle with Jose, really enjoyed it, and I'm so pleased to have raced with these guys today because we have really seen one of the best racing so far today, and yeah, it's really memorable. This
really has been your year so far for the Nations Cup. I mean, like, the amount of conversations that we've had. How do you feel? I mean, can you really take in everything that you've achieved this year? Because it's been, well, to put it in the words of Tom Brooks, mega.
Mind-blowing. Because, let's say, during this this phases before the World Finals, yeah, it was, let's say, a preparation of what's gonna be the World Finals. So, studying the other drivers, their behavior, their tactics, and also about the points, because obviously for a fact I've been able to extend so much the points in the leadership.
Yeah,
so
6 points ahead. I mean, it's looking pretty good for you, right?
Yeah, it surely gives a huge motivation boost ahead of the World Final, where, you know, it's time to go all or nothing. So
yeah. How do you feel though? Because Fraga's suddenly come out of the woodwork and is now kind of like nipping at your heels, and you know, he's obviously a GT Championship legend, and he's sort of like, you know, in your rearview mirror. Does that put you off?
I mean, Igor is a champion. What can you say about him? So, so I think that.
Huge congratulations. We're really excited to see you again in the World Finals. And, you know, whatever happens, you've had an amazing year of racing and you should be super proud.
Really, thank you guys again. And thank you also for watching.
Jose Serrano put in a second podium finish of the day to finish as a runner-up. So, Jose, talk us through the race. What happened there? honestly, it could have been you or Valerio or Igor. I mean, it really could have gone any way because you three were just so close together.
Sí, al principio de carrera estaba intentando ahorrar neumático porque este coche desgasta mucho. Y cuando en el primer stint, cuando he visto que tenía más ritmo, he adelantado a Valerio. Y nada, luego en el segundo stint hemos peleado Valerio y yo limpiamente, muy bien. Y nada, he disfrutado muchísimo la carrera.
But do you really enjoy it? Because it looks really stressful. Is it actually fun, you know, in the moment when you're racing?
Sí, es estresante y a la vez es divertido, ¿no? Porque cuando es así de limpio la batalla, pues cómo no disfrutar.
Jose, you know you're now basically second place in the Nations Cup, moving forwards to the World Finals. Why do you think this season you're suddenly driving so well and getting results better than anyone else?
Pues nada, esto es trabajo y esfuerzo, ¿no? Porque sin eso no estaría donde estoy ahora mismo.
Well, it certainly is strong. You're only 6 points behind Valerio going into that World Finals. So congratulations for today. Every point counts, and we'll see you again for the World Finals. Well done, Jose.
Thank you, Julia.
From one driver with 2 podium finishes today to another, Igor Fraga. Igor, well done with 3rd place. How was that for you? It looked incredibly close, to be honest. Really close.
Yeah, it's been a close fight, you know, the whole race. They had the slip of each other, Valerio and Josete. And yeah, it was very difficult to do the move because always the car in front had so much momentum as well. So it was difficult to get alongside like a 3 wide. I probably had 1 or 2 moments that I could overtake, probably one of each other. But yeah, it was quite difficult. But at the same time, I'm quite happy with the P3 now.
No, it's really good. I mean, I think it was on like lap 15, there was a small incident. Can you talk us through what actually happened there?
Yeah, so we have a lot more momentum going to the turn 1 because of the draft. And, you know, sometimes you try to avoid a little bit like they were doing the draft. So, you know, you can keep the same position or you arrive with a similar speed to turn 1. But then, you know, when you go to the battle, you want to really go for it. And I probably break, I don't know, 5 or 3 meters too late, which is, you know, just like that. And it passed 5 meters. So it's, you know, it's quite tough. But yeah, I'm glad that everyone went out of that corner well and keep battling. So yeah, it was nice.
How do you feel like, you know, now that we've got one more big event left, you've just proved that you're back up top. How do you feel now going into these World Finals?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a lot of hard work going on. The same for the other drivers. I think everyone is pushing really hard to try to get that little edge to, you know, win some races. And yeah, actually this is my very first time, like since 2018, that I went on the podium both in manufacturer and nations. So I think, you know, it's a good sign. And for the next World Final, I will keep pushing myself and train really hard. And yeah, we'll see what's going to happen.
Huge congratulations. It's been such a great weekend for you, Igor, and hopefully we'll get the chance to chat next time, you know?
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Maybe we'll see you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's analysis time. Tom and Jimmy, what did you think about that enthralling race?
Well, I mean, lots of things, really. I think that was really, really exciting. Lots of tension right to the end.
Yeah, I mean, start of the race was a little bit fist-fighty, though, wasn't it, to be honest?
Yeah, it didn't go so well for some people. Here we are, this is Adriano Carrazza into the back of Andrew Lee, and it just becomes a game of bowling after that.
Yeah, I mean, though, to his benefit, well, here's what Leo had to say about it.
Appreciate that. Carrazza.
I mean, I'm not surprised, because he got actually gifted, I think, about 8 or 9 places there just by being on the receiving end of Carrazza's lack of ability to touch the middle pedal. So.
Yeah, I don't really know what was going on there. That was brain fade or brake fade, or, I mean, something was going on, wasn't it?
I know, it's been a bit of a theme, though, recently for Carrazza, so a bit worried for him, but, you know, he got a penalty, which I think was fair. So.
And the thing is, in commentary, we were wondering what on earth happened to Ryota Kokubun in the first part of that race. And, well, he was caught up in that incident as well. Here we are, riding on board with Kokubun, down in towards the first corner. Keep an eye out on the right-hand side of your picture, because slam. There you go, that's as a result of Carrazza going too late on the brakes, and then just the concertina effect, everybody else getting caught up, and he goes back down to about 13th, 14th, 15th position, something like that.
It just seems that his luck recently has been so abysmal. It's been so terrible. And in that case, of course, you had Andrew Lee getting the good side and Kokubun got the bad side. So commiserations again to Ryota Kokubun.
Yeah, and another Japanese driver who didn't particularly have the best day at the office. Really good start to his race. All went Pete Tong for him though, on the curb, lit up the rear tyres and bang, straight in towards the barrier. And that was a compounding woe for Takumi Miyazato.
Yeah, not great for him.
Is your Japanese any good to translate that?
Well, I've been told it means like, oh, come on. Like, it's like, I think it's one of those really easy things that the grip just sort of disappears out there. It's how the curve is shaped, and you just touch that wrong bit in the curve. You do that, and the rear right lights up, and off you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and also it robbed us of a top 4 battle potentially for the race lead. We did have a top 3 battle though. This is Valerio Gallo, Jose Serrano, and Igor Fraga down to the first corner. You can see Serrano leaning on Valerio Gallo into that first turn. And this wasn't the first or the last time it happened either.
No, they had a couple of runs at it, didn't they? That's a great thing about there being a few laps to go, is you can sort of almost rehearse it. This time it was Serrano leading with Fraga on the outside, trying to make their way around, but then of course Gallo then taking the place back up into the lead. And interestingly, the lap after that, we didn't actually see a change of position, just more a bit shuffling.
Yeah, this is on board here with Igor Fraga. You can see Serrano on the outside, Gallo on the inside, really, really close between those two drivers. Just great racing, great respect between them, and fantastic car control. Valerio Gallo taking the win.
Bella gara! Dai!
I don't speak Italian, but I don't need to after that one. Super impressive stuff from Valerio Gallo. This is what it means in the World Series points ranking as well. He sits at the top of the order ahead of Jose Serrano and Ryota Kokubun there as well. Really, really exciting race in World Series 4.
Jimmy, come and join me over here on my giant little garage plinth or whatever it is, this thing.
I've been invited onto the...
You can come, you're allowed to join.
The real stage.
The real stage. Before we get the podium ceremonies going, we really need to have a chat about what's going to happen in these World Finals. And let's go through the Manufacturers Series first. What's been happening and what are we going to read into it?
Well, I mean, right now, of course, Toyota sort of have the controlling stake, so to speak. They've had a fantastic season so far. Of course, Fraga, Lopez and Yamanaka in that car, super strong team.
Very.
Here they are winning at Showdown. It's a great result from them. But of course, also, Team Mazda, although they've not been as strong recently, they've had 3 second-place finishes, so they've been very quick as well. And again, a very strong team there. So I think realistically, it's between Toyota and Mazda at the moment.
I mean, that's a lot of points for that many kind of second places. And then also we've got Serrano for Porsche. He's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that he's really in form at the moment. He's always been at the top end. Every race he's been in, it's either second, third, winning a couple as well. So he's really sort of carrying that team. In the Stroza races for those guys as well.
Oh, yeah, of course,
They're both sort of Porsche specialists, so watch out for them.
And what about Miyazono for Subaru? I mean, Miyazono's won everything already, so I really feel like, you know, wherever he is right now, I don't think we can really discount him.
Of course, these guys, they always want to watch Team Subaru, but they're a bit far back, and I don't know, I'm not sure if it's realistic. Unless they have a fantastic run of things in the World Final, it's not looking good for them.
But we shouldn't forget, obviously, the Nations Cup. What's that looking like at the moment in terms of, like, standings and, like, who have you got your eye on?
Well, right now, there's only really one guy I think is realistically given the chance of winning it. That's Valerio Gallo, because he's won everything, including the Olympic Virtual Series.
I know, ridiculous.
Which he tells me about every time I see him. He's like, Jimmy, I won the Virtual Series.
It's like we were here, Valerio. We saw it.
Saw it, I know. So he's been just really quick the entire season, and any circuit he's been on, he's been fighting for the win or winning.
Yeah.
But again, Jose Serrano.
Can we nickname him Mr. Consistency?
We've got one of those already. It was Lopez.
No, but he's not Mr. Consistency anymore.
Consistency
It's been taken away.
I can't say that. No chance.
No.
Not of a lisp as well. But let's talk about Kokubun.
Yes.
The world's most unfortunate man at the moment.
Don't say that.
He's been shuffled off so many times recently, but he's still had a good first part of the season, so the points are still there. Just needs to have a good final, I think.
Well, there's so much to look forward to, and of course we have the Toyota Gazoo Racing GT Cup as part of the World Finals too, so it's going to be an immense 3 days to finish off the season. But before that, let's celebrate today's brilliant racing by joining Tom for the podium ceremonies.
Thanks, Julia. First of all, then, it's the podium for the Manufacturers Series. In third place, it's Jose Serrano representing Team Porsche. In second place, it's Ryota Kokubun representing Team Mazda. And And the winner of round 4 of the Manufacturers Series is Igor Fraga representing Team Toyota.
Yes.
Congratulations, Igor Fraga and Team Toyota. And now it's time for the national anthem of our winning manufacturer. Well done once more to Igor Fraga and Team Toyota for their impressive victory.
Wow, brilliant job there by Igor and Team Toyota. And we're going to be celebrating our Nations Cup podium finishers in just a moment. But first, Jimmy needs to offer up his ideas for Michelin Driver of the Day. And I appreciate that we ignore you half the time, but you still have to offer them up. Like, who are you thinking?
I don't feel like I'm respected here, Julia.
It's a brief amount of respect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, let's talk about Igor Fraga, because won the first race at the Nordschleife and had that awesome save that I would have personally binned. I have no idea how he kept that. And also a good race in the second race as well, P3 there, so double podium for him. So.
The double, yeah.
Also, someone else with the double TM is Jose Serrano. He got, I think it was a double, no, it was a third and a second he had. So, double podium, good results for him, but again, he would have wanted to go one better at Fuji, I think. And then last but certainly not least, Valerio Gallo, of course, because every race he seems to enter, he seems to win. So, how can you look by that?
So, what you're saying is for Michelin Driver of the Day, basically you just pick the top 3.
It's a really easy job, this.
Apparently so. Well, that's all right. As I said before, it is up to you guys, the viewers, to pick the Michelin Driver of the Day. So please head on over to the Gran Turismo Facebook, Twitter or Instagram stories and make your vote count. Right, it's now time for the podium of that captivating Nations Cup race.
Congratulations to our podium finishers in World Series 4 of the Nations Cup. In third place, representing Brazil, it's Igor Fraga.
Yes.
In second place, from Spain, it's Jose Serrano. And the winner of round 4 of the Nations Cup, representing Italy, it's Valerio Gallo. Congratulations to Valerio Gallo. Please show your respect for the national anthem of Italy. Well done to Valerio Gallo from Italy for taking victory in the Nations Cup.
Brilliant job there by Valerio, who tastes Nations Cup glory once again, and also to Team Toyota and Igor Fraga for winning our Manufacturers Series race. Thanks to Tom and to you, Jimmy, well, for just being you and generally being around. And don't forget to head to our Facebook and YouTube channels to keep up to date with all of the latest Gran Turismo features. And we can't wait to see you next month for those huge 3 days of the Gran Turismo calendar, the 2021 World Finals. Jimmy, give us the deets.
Well, OK then, the Toyota Gazoo Racing GT Cup, that's on Friday, December 3rd. Then after that, Manufacturers Series on Saturday the 4th. And Nations Cup is on Sunday the 5th of December.
There's some great dates, Jimmy, thanks. and don't you dare miss them or I'll set this man on you. But I think they mean this one? We're going to turn up with an aggressive shed at someone. I don't know. Anyway, take care and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bella gara! Dai!